Oh. Hello, welcome to the Daddykirbs farm, the first ever question and answer episode where I'm actually going to read your questions from the last video and try to give you, well, answers. Before I start with the questions, let me say that I am not your expert. I'm not your gardening expert. I'm a man on a journey. I have 6 years experience now on this farm. I've been trying to do a lot of different projects, so I have experience with a lot of different things. I know a little about a lot, and I'm working on learning more, but understand that all of my answers are going to come from my experience and not some scientific research. So, I might be wrong. Hey Maggie, you can't see it, but Maggie's standing right here. I think she likes me being out here. Okay, first, I might get your names wrong too. Worm Turns Florida. Can you talk about if you use ant and nematode controls in the garden? Here in Central Florida, they are both a huge problem, and I assume you have them. Hey, don't bump my camera. I assume you have them in Central Texas too. Right now, I've not used any products like that. I've never purchased nematodes or insects or beneficials of any kind. I've never done that, so I have no experience with that. What I try to do in my garden and on my farm in general is to provide a biodiverse, a lot of different types of plants and animals. Hopefully balance, to provide a balance in nature. I'm sure it's way off from perfect, but leave space for the beneficials to grow on their own, and hopefully things fall in line. And Joan Smith says, did you say South Texas? I thought you lived in the Denton area. I do live just outside Santa. Hey Maggie, come here, give me a kiss. Give me a kiss. Good girl. Good girl. I do live just outside San Antonio, not Denton. That's a few hours north. How many farm cats do you have left? Well, one of the 4 that we got in the cages, we actually returned to the shelter to find another home because he was not agreeing at all with the other 3 barn cats. So we have the 2 cats on the porch, which is Pumpkin and Lulu, and then the 3 barn cats that we're still trying to acclimate. They haven't been released on the farm yet. What variety of fruit trees do you have in the orchard? The orchard's right here, and I have 2 nectarine, 4 peach, 3 peach, because Maggie killed one. Thanks, Maggie. And 4 different pears, 2 American persimmon, and 4 apples, different varieties. So right now that's what I have. And is there a specific time of the year that your chickens are breeding? The chickens will breed all year long. We only collect eggs at different times, and it doesn't have anything to do with the time of year. It really has more to do just when we want to hatch chickens. The ducks, on the other hand, the small Australian spotted ducks only lay eggs for a short time in the spring. So if we were to breed them, it would be during that time frame. That was Carl Curtis, I'm sorry, and the fruit tree question was Julie James. And the farm cat, see I'm getting all this messed up. The farm cat question was by What's Up. Sola Mano, can you hear that? Maggie's stepping on the wire. I put wire down around this cage out here on the mulch garden, hopefully to deter animals from getting in here and digging under. So I'm sure I look really weird. There's a guy jogging on the road and I'm out here talking to a camera. Sola Mano says, I live in the country and have a small lawn versus a large terrace and flower beds. Do you think I could sustain a chicken coop of any size? There are a lot of bugs, weeds, and some unexpected rainfall. I was actually thinking of either renting a goat or covering the entire space, so the weeds have beat me for the 4th time. They grow up to my chin. Yes, if you have space where weeds are growing and you're not using that space for anything else, then I say you have space for some chickens. If your local law allows, then get a small coop. If you have a nice fenced-in yard, just get a small coop and let them out, let them free range. But keep in mind, they will eat your flowers. The landscape that you don't want them in is going to be where they enjoy spending their time the most. So 3 or 4 hens, if you can fit those, I think that would be a really nice addition to your lawn space. Creatively Clean Soaps says, do you still use or have you had success using ground up eggshells when you plant your tomatoes? I've been collecting eggshells and I want to give that a try since I watched your video on this topic. Well, thank you for watching the video. And as far as success, I'm going to say yes, because the calcium from the eggshells gets put into the garden and over time it breaks down and becomes available to the plant. I would say that the calcium that I'm adding to the garden beds is successful in the sense that I'm adding it and over time it's breaking down and it's becoming available to the plants. Last season I had no blossom end rot, so yes, it's not immediately available, so you can't say you add the eggshells and bam, everything's fixed. It's one of those things that you're adding to the soil and over time the soil life is breaking that down and making it available to the plants. Lease44 says, how do you manage the tortoise in cold weather? This is kind of a challenge. In my area of Texas, we get sometimes in the winter it gets really cold and then it gets really hot. Well, the tortoises don't mind the hot as long as they have some shade to get into. They do mind the cold. They don't like being cold for very long at all. So Jack, the smaller tortoise, he's about this big, and we put him in a tote in the house. And Coco lives in a heated house, so as long as it doesn't get down to freezing, he's fine. The few nights where it did freeze, we put him in the laundry room and he slept in there for 2 days and he was fine. If you go back and watch my video that's titled "The Sun is Coming Out," you see him coming out of the house on his own, coming down the stairs. That was a pretty interesting thing to watch. So when it's cold, extremely cold, we move the tortoises inside. It does get to be a little cramped with dogs and tortoises and people, and yeah, it's a full house. Cece says, will you be going back to Norway? I really hope so. Cece, that was one of the best trips of my life. I made wonderful, lifelong, hopefully, memories, and I know that I made lifelong friends. I can't imagine that this family that I stayed with would ever disown me, because they're just wonderful people and they have been nothing but kind and gracious to me. Even still, 3 people from that I met in Norway now support me on Patreon because they really enjoyed getting to know me and they see value in the content that I provide. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon, by the way. It means a lot to me. The Bald Menace says, do you have dogs? Yes, I have 7 dogs. If so, how do you keep them from attacking the chickens? Well, all 7 dogs really don't care about the chickens. 6 of the 7 dogs are small lap dogs. See, I think about computers too much. 6 of the dogs are small. All of them live inside full time except for when they have to go potty. The largest dog is Luke's service dog, and he does get to go out. We put his harness on and we go out in the public. But they never just run around the farm for very long. They go out at 10 minutes at a time on the farm, and they just don't care about the chickens, so it's not a problem. Odette381 says, how are you doing, Luke? Well, I'm trying to get this video done before the sun goes down so he's not out here. And I don't see him out here, so I'm just going to answer for him for now. I'll try to get him on video later, but he is feeling much better. He still has a little bit of chest junk. The pneumonia is gone, but he's still dealing with a little bit of the stuff in the chest that he has to cough. And so he's getting over it. He's feeling better. He's working on the farm. Thanks for asking. Why not cover the nectarine tree if frost is coming? I tried that one year. I've got one of those big blankets, the frost covering blankets, and I wrapped it up and I put clips all over it to help protect it, and the wind actually caused more damage to the branches because it was like a big sail than I believe the frost would have done. So I just don't bother anymore. If the trees get frost and I lose fruit, then that's just one season I lose fruit. I'm not gonna put that much effort, time, resources into protecting the trees, because the trees aren't gonna die. It just might be a difference of whether I get fruit or not. Jesse Lopez says, how did you learn to upload videos from start to finish? Well, it was kind of a trial and error thing. 10 years ago I started making videos. A lot of them were really bad, but it gave me experience making the videos, and I actually did some tutorials on YouTube on how to find the right upload settings and how to make all the audio settings and all that. I still mess up a lot. In my earlier videos I messed up even more, but it was just trial and error. I didn't have any formal education on that. What herb plants are you growing on your farm? This is Roe. I might have been adding numbers to some of those names, but it's because when I printed this out, it said how many hours there were. So if I have added hours to your name, I'm sorry. Roe, who I almost called Row 12, what herb plants are you growing on your farm? I hope I'm not sitting in ants. Right now I have oregano, basil, mint, rosemary. That might be it. No, chives. I have some chives. I have had some thyme in the past. But part of my challenge, as with all of the gardening so far, is that I haven't learned how to use all of those things very well. So even though I'm growing them, or in the past maybe I grew some and then I stopped growing them when they died, or I didn't plant more because I didn't really know how to use it. The more I learn how to cook with different things, the more I want to grow. A little bit at a time says, have you considered adding wheels to the tractor? This tractor behind me, the one that you saw in the last video, is there a latch on the top lid door of your tractor? No, there is no latch. This door is heavy. I mean, it's a challenge to open. The predators are not going to open that, so I'm not worried about that. And the wheels, for the most part, I haven't wanted wheels or needed wheels. I don't have wheels, so I haven't bothered buying wheels and putting them on, because the handle system that we have, even though it's heavy, we only moved it 4 to 6 feet at a time, so it was never that big a deal. And with 2 people, it's very manageable for that short amount of time. Moving it over that long distance, wheels would have been very nice, and I wish I had invested in that. Isaac Reeves says, what do you plan to plant during the upcoming gardening season? Looking forward to the videos to come. Thank you, sir. And what am I planting? I don't know exactly yet, because I haven't sat down and checked out what seeds I have and what I'm planning to plant. One of the things that I'm considering more and more, which you should consider straight off the bat, but is what am I actually going to eat? How am I going to cook it? How am I going to preserve it? How am I going to prepare it? This should be one of your #1 questions before you plant anything, but a lot of times for me, when I first started gardening, it was, well, I saw somebody grow okra, I'm going to try to grow okra. I don't even like okra. Well, I found out now that I like to eat raw okra because I did grow it and I ate it in the garden, and it's like a candy, a gardening snack. Here come the geese. The ducks and the geese are playing in the swale. So what am I planting this year? I'm definitely going to plant more carrots, because the carrots that I harvested recently, I made fermented carrots, and that was wonderful. I'm definitely going to plant more of the white radish, the daikon type radish, because I can add that to kimchi, and I love fermenting the veggies to make kimchi and different things like that. More hot peppers, because I made fermented hot sauce again, and this last batch was just wonderful. I can't believe the flavor that you get when you grow your own and ferment it and make your own sauce. It beats every bottle sauce that you can buy. It's amazing. So I'll definitely be growing peppers and tomatoes and carrots and cucumbers and a lot of the normal stuff. I would like to experiment more with some of the cabbages. I've had zero luck with cabbage in the past, but I would like to do some for the fermenting. I would also like to try to ferment some of the, like kohlrabi, Swiss chard, things like that. So some of those things, but I don't have a definite list yet. Kate Danzig says, how early can you begin planting your crops? Well, it depends. It's best to wait until after the typical last frost date. That way you avoid a surprise frost. But the weather, I'm wearing a sweatshirt, but it's really warm right now. The weather is beautiful. It's tempting to just get out and plant. Things like carrots and lettuce and cabbage and things like that, I could plant right now and probably be at very low risk of losing them. But as far as like tomatoes and peppers, I'm gonna wait until March or so, because I just want to make sure that I'm avoiding that last frost if we get one at all. Celsius Theory 032, what are your next big projects on the farm? I have so many projects. I have a list of things that are going to be like infrastructure type things. The front gate is falling apart. I need to fix the front gate. I need to rebuild or build a new facility for the horse so that I can tear down that old facility. And I really need a place that I can have my tools. My tools often get wrecked because I don't have a proper place to store them. So I need a shop. I have no garage or no shop. The best thing I have right now is that green shed, which is stuffed full of storage stuff, because we've never had a garage or a shop here. So those are the big things. Also the earthworks. I'm going to bring the tractor out here in the orchard, and I'm going to sculpt this land and increase the capacity of the swales, and that goes on up by the chicken coops as well. There's a pond, hopefully. I'm working with a local permaculture guy that does earthworks, and we're discussing the possibilities of doing a pond back in the meadow area, and expanding and increasing the capacity and the efficiency of the apiary. I actually have 2 additional areas where I'm going to expand the gardens that are up closer to the house. So yeah, I mean, a huge list. I don't even know if I'm going to get through half of those things, but those are some of the things coming up. Brandon's Bees, what do ducks do on the farm? Are they for eggs? I've never eaten a duck. Well, I only had duck meat one time a long time ago, and it was okay, but we don't eat the ducks here. And the ducks, the little ducks, are mostly for pleasure. They're cute. My daughter likes them, so we have them. They do lay eggs in the springtime, so the larger ducks lay eggs pretty much year round, and then the smaller ducks only lay eggs in the springtime. So we do eat duck eggs. Oh, you said I've never eaten a duck egg, not a duck. That's a little different. The duck eggs are very similar to chicken eggs, but they're a little fattier, a little creamier. They have a flavor that a lot of people prefer in baked goods, so we do enjoy eating the duck eggs. I like them better than chicken eggs anyway, but most people that I talk to say that they like the duck eggs in baked goods, not on their own. Amy L. Schultz, can you list all of the fruit trees you have planted? I've already done that. In the orchard, I listed those. I do have mulberry up by the chicken coop, and I have some fig trees that I'm getting ready to plant, some lemon trees. So along with those that I listed in the orchard, those are the only other ones that I have, either that I have planted or I'm going to plant. Mr. Mr. Offizier, sorry, I probably got that wrong. Did you kill some of your animals for eating yet? I have butchered some chickens. Casey Jenkins, what do you plan on growing this year? I sort of already answered that. Yamar Blackburn, have you tried to cover the trees to help the leaves? I answered that as well. The adding a blanket to the trees. Some people have success with that. If there's no strong wind, it's probably fine, but usually with the cold weather also comes some wind, so I don't like that idea. How do you free range quail? I don't know. Never done it. Can you put, oh, that was Redneck Reed. Daniel Bim, can you put some wheels on your tractor so it's not such a burden? Yes, I could if I had invested in that, but I just never have. How many acres is your farm? Janice P asked that, and it's 5.5 acres. Most of what you see in the videos is on about 2.5 acres. The horse area in the back, I have some woods in the back, and I have my bees in the back, but my property is almost split in half. The front half is where you get to see most of this activity, and that's about 2.5 acres. Jacob Van Diest, how many animals do you have on your farm? 1 horse, 2 goats, 7 dogs, 5 cats. Gosh, probably 30 ducks, 40 chickens or so, 3 rabbits, 2 tortoises, 1 saltwater tank, small one, and a lizard. I think that's it. Marcia Tuckerchuck says, what kind of trees are those that arch all over the place? I love the visual. I really like them too. I've cut a few out. Those are the mesquite trees. They have a very unique look, and they produce a seed pod which is edible. Unfortunately, the seed pods are not good for the horse, so some of the trees have gone away. They also produce a lot of thorns, so in some cases we have removed trees from certain areas so that we have fewer thorns. But that's the mesquite. How do you keep yourself organized? I don't. I'm horrible at that. I mean, having this printed out for this video is about as organized as I get. Do you have any mulberry trees on the farm? Yes, I have several in the garden ready to be planted, and I have the 1 mulberry tree that was planted up around the chicken coops. Look back in my old videos and search for the term mulberry donut, because I planted it in a certain way that I felt like was going to help the tree grow up, and my goodness, that tree has exploded. It's huge. That was Joyce June. I'm sorry, I'm missing names. How do you keep yourself organized was Demonic Fowl. Joyce June asked about the mulberry trees. Leandro Saturnino said, do you know the game Stardew Valley? It's about farming, gardening, socializing with people, etc. It's beautiful and worth playing if you have a little free time. I have no free time. Games are not really a part of my life. Sometimes I wish they were, but they're just not. Taylor Nicole, will you be doing any meat bird processing in the future? How many acres are you using for your farm? The acreage I answered. The meat birds, I might maybe do more, but I'm leaning toward not. Wombat Hide, why zone your garden so far from the house? I really like this question because that's a permaculture question, and the garden you're talking about is the one I'm sitting in right now. It's the area that I defined as my mulch garden or my back to Eden style garden. It's up here by the orchard. Part of the reason it's up here is because the way my farm is laid out, I just don't have a lot of room for gardens. And when I planned on doing this mulch garden, I had all of this mulch, and I wanted to do it with the tractor so that I wasn't spending months and months loading this mulch up. And it was just easier to do it up here, and so far the only thing I've grown up here is green beans, and that's one of those things that you can plant and not worry so much about, so it wasn't a heavily tended garden, and that's kind of the way I do intend to use this space, is with the plants that I don't have to manage that frequently. So my main garden is up by the house, and this garden is up by the orchard. It may turn into just an extension of the orchard or a berry plot, like where I do berries. I'm not sure really how this is going to turn out, but that's what this space is so far. Nice question, thank you. Moni Me, What are you going to plant when the weather warms up, and are you starting seeds indoors now? I have not started any seeds indoors. I would like to. It's another one of those things that I just haven't gotten to. What I am doing this year is supporting a local person who is making sort of a mini business where they're starting seeds and selling the plants. So I'm going to be supporting that person and buying my tomato plants from them. I've already ordered 10 tomato plants in 5 different heirloom varieties. So you'll see those coming up. How did you and your wife meet? Well, back when I was young, and I lived with my parents for a short time after college, because my college experience was kind of a failed experience, and she moved in next door, and that's it. I fell in love. What is your day job? I'm a graphic designer. This camera only records for a very short time, so it ran out. I had to restart it. So I am a graphic designer. That was the end of that one. That was Joyce Barber, and the How Did Your Wife Meet was Drew Garner. Carrie B. What specific varieties of veggies have you found to be the most Texas weather resistant? I'm really bad at record keeping, and I'm not really good at researching and logging and keeping track. I hope to get better at that, and the more that I fail, the more I know that I need to do that. So honestly, I'm not, I don't know. I mean, I've done, what I have found is that cherry tomatoes, the smaller tomatoes, tend to do better for me than the larger tomatoes. I've had very little luck with larger tomatoes, so I like the smaller to medium-sized tomatoes because they just do better for me here. Other than that, I'm not sure. Larry Luttrell, how is your greenhouse holding up? Has it weathered storms okay? Did you do any modifications to make it more usable or sturdier? Well, I did add the base to it to make it taller, but that's the only modification I made. I didn't use any glue or anything around the panels like some people do. And it's holding up fine. The panels are a little bit discolored now after several years, but they're all in there and holding up just fine. Annette Parlato, are those chickens bantams? Will they be safe in your tractor with predators passing through? I hope all goes well. These are the silkies, so they are bantams. They're smaller chickens, and I did add this wire. You can see this wire here around the base, and what that is going to do is make, as predators try to dig in, it's going to discourage them because they won't be able to actually dig a hole. I thought of that after the video, the last video. I'm really hoping that that does the trick and there's no issues with that. Johnny P. Do you free range your chickens during the day? I heard it helps with bugs and snakes in the yard. I'm afraid they won't return to their fenced in area. They do. Chickens come home. If you give them a short time period, you know, a week, where they're confined to their coop. When I get new chickens, I put them in the coop and I just leave them in there to get to know the other chickens and to learn their space for 3 or 4 days. And then when we let them out, almost every time they go back at nighttime. When the sun starts going down, they go home. So yes, we do free range the chickens and they do go home. Occasionally we get some that don't quite get that, and we just kind of round them up and encourage them to go in at nighttime with the others, and after a short time they all get it and they're fine. Arminda Hart, Arminda or Armind A. Hart. Have much excess fruits and vegetables do you get, and how and where do you store it? What are your favorite seeds to plant and from which seed companies? I have several seed companies that I like. I really like the Baker Creek seeds. I don't order from them very often. The Bountiful Gardens is probably my favorite. I just like them. The seeds seem to be inexpensive, and they've had pretty decent customer service, and I just like them. So Bountiful Gardens is my favorite. And I rarely have excess fruits and vegetables because I haven't ever planted an excess. We did have, when I planted up here and I did the green beans, We had a lot of those, but we blanched them and froze them. We put them in the freezer, and for the most part, anything that's extra as far as the fruits and vegetables, I have either canned them or turned them into some sort of like a jam or a jelly or something like that. Wanda Price, what is a good egg-laying chicken breed for warm weather? I live in Florida. And how do you, let's see, also what do you do when you have more than one rooster in regards to having them in the same flock? Sometimes roosters coexist just fine, especially when they are hatched and raised up together. A lot of times, we have 3 roosters right now that were given to us, and they're in a small cage because we never made them a small cage. They're in plenty of room, but they're in a smaller area, and they coexist just fine. They don't fight at all. If they do fight, then we do separate the roosters, maybe put one in a chicken tractor and one free ranges or whatever. The warm weather chickens, I'm in Texas, and I can tell you I don't have scientific research to say what is a good warm weather chicken, but the production breeds, the Leghorns, the Rhode Island Reds, the Easter Eggers or Americanas, those all have done really well for me. They tend to make it through July and August when it's really hot here with very little issue. Some of the heavier breeds, they pant a lot, so they're probably not your better. So look for some of those standard production type chickens and you should be okay. It's a Thought 2 says, I'm going to have a balcony veggie garden for the first time this year. Congratulations. And I was wondering if you would recommend adding worms to big pots if that is... No, it's not... He said, is that a silly idea? It's not a silly idea. If you get a couple of red wigglers, you can even buy them at the bait store and put a couple of those in each pot, providing you're not putting the artificial fertilizers and whatever. If you have a large pot and you're trying to make nice organic soil, a couple of worms absolutely would be a nice addition to that. Casey Jenkins, why do you like your farm so much? That's an interesting question. There are times, quite honestly, when I don't really like my farm. It's very stressful. I have my full-time job. I have to leave and come back, and I have to manage all of this at a time in the evenings and on the weekends. And sometimes I don't like my farm, and I've contemplated over the years quitting. Just giving it up and selling the farm. At the same time, because I'm so busy, I've talked about even quitting YouTube because it's just so much work. But I do love my farm. And what I really do love about my farm is just my neighbors are a little further away. I have plenty of space to manage the gardens that I want to manage. The girls like all the animals, the ducks and the chickens and the horses and all that, and they have space to do that type of thing, which we would never be able to experience if we lived in a neighborhood like we have in the past. Sun's going down. This is getting to be a long video. I hope it's okay. Trish Weiner says, this is a big endeavor. How does the entire family manage their time between filming, work, school, the farm, and just everyday life, like trips to McDonald's, doctor's appointments, etc.? Inquiring minds want to know. Yeah, this is a daily struggle. This is that's one thing. It's really hard to answer. A lot of people ask me, how do you do it? You have so much going on. And if I ever just sit and reflect about how do I do this, the answer is I don't know. Quite honestly, I don't know how we keep up and how we do this, but it's just every day. You do what needs done, and what you don't get done, you do the next day. And sometimes, because you didn't get something done, something fails. Maybe a project didn't get done. We try always to take care of the animals first, but my garden has failed on multiple occasions because I didn't get it watered, or I didn't get things planted at the right time, or I didn't harvest them at the right time, so things fell on the ground. Or, you know, you've watched my beekeeping videos, and there have been a number of times when, because I didn't have time, I lost a hive, or I didn't get on top of a wax moth or a hive beetle problem or whatever. So I don't always manage, but I just keep going. I just keep doing it. Blue Daz, do you have before pictures of your farm? I know you have accomplished a lot since the beginning. I know you have accomplished a lot since the beginning of this channel. I just thought it would be great to see a side-by-side every now and then. That's a good idea. I should go back and see if I have some of that. I do have the channel for documentation, but I've never really done too many, I don't think any, side-by-side comparisons. Maybe I'll look that up and see if I can get something done for you. Sun's going down. Mary Belford Smith says, how do you maintain grazing, browsing for the goats? The last time you showed the area the goats and the fowl are kept, it's not sporting much green. That could be because of the season, but you do not move them around. I don't move them around. It's true. I don't. Occasionally we do let the goats out. Sometimes we try to put them on a leash and we walk them to different areas. But it's true, the goats, they have their space and there's not a lot of green, especially in the winter. In the spring and fall there is more green, but they have picked over it pretty well, and it's one of those challenges. I will say that goats probably long term are not going to be a part of the Daddykirbs farm. Those that we have will be allowed to live out their life, but I'm pretty sure we won't get more after these. Terry W. Ivy, how far in South Texas do you live? Just outside San Antonio. It's a big truck passing. She says she used to live near Dallas. She turned her yard into a vegetable garden and supplied a lot of vegetables to the neighbors. That is wonderful. The climate here, if you have time to focus on it, you can grow a lot of things here because we have a nice gardening season in the springtime and in the fall. The winter, there's a few months in the winter that you can grow some things, but we do get those cold snaps. And then the summer, July and August, there's a lot that won't grow because it's so hot. There are some things that do grow. Some people are very successful at growing things like okra and the black-eyed peas and things like that love the heat. So you really have the opportunity of potentially growing year-round here. See, that was Casey Jenkins. Is that your third question? Good for you. Good for you. How long have you been beekeeping? I'm in my 5th season, and yeah, it's a journey. It's one of those that every time I go out there, it's a new experience. That's kind of the way it goes on the farm, but beekeeping has kept me on my toes more than anything else. Marlanio 1, how do you deal with ant beds in or around your produce? It hasn't been that big a deal. I haven't really dealt that much with ants. We do have the fire ants and they do make their nest, but it hasn't been that big of a deal in my garden. Occasionally, to encourage them to move along, I sprinkle diatomaceous earth, otherwise known as DE. It doesn't really kill them, but it does kind of encourage them to move along. So that's really all I've done. I haven't done any of the tricks to get rid of ants because it just hasn't been that big of a problem. Vaughn Malecki, how come I don't see any winter harvest videos? Sometimes I don't get around to making the videos, and also because there hasn't been a lot to harvest. I did have the carrots recently, which was a really nice harvest, and I loved making the fermented carrots out of those, but some of the things that I had radishes in the garden and they were growing really nicely and the rats ate them all. I had other carrots that didn't get harvested because either rats or rabbits ate them. Let's see. Other times when I've had like cabbages and things like that, they never got harvested because they were eaten by the caterpillars. So sometimes it's because I just don't have time to make a video, and other times it's because I didn't get a harvest. Jimmy Suick, are you using the solar panels? I never followed up. I haven't made a follow-up video, but yeah, absolutely. The solar panels have been producing beautifully. It's really cool seeing them up there on the cabin, and our last bill, we saved at least $100 on our last bill. It was really cool. Beekeeping question by Julian PCNTT. Is it possible to have a beehive inside a chicken enclosure so the chickens would eat the unwanted beetles and other bugs, but would leave the bees flying away untouched, or the chickens would have a feast with them too? I don't know if chickens will eat the bees. I don't think they will. In my new apiary, I've actually considered, as I design it, enclosing it and putting a handful of chickens in there just for that purpose. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I thought about it and I might try it. We'll see. If I can make the enclosure secure enough, I might give that a shot. ACDC says, why is your daughter so rough with the chickens? She's throwing them into the tractor. You know what? This is one of those... this was an interesting conversation in the house because we noticed that she was being a little rough. No chickens were hurt, but she was being a little rough. And we had a conversation with her. And it turns out that she was a little aggravated that she was being recorded. She's never told me so directly that I don't want to be recorded. You see, what happens with the kids, and I asked my son, the Golden Sun Beekeeper, because you remember last season he told me he didn't want to be in any more videos. He claims this is not for the same reason, but my daughter said that in previous videos where she has been featured, some people in the comments have said mean things, and she doesn't want to be a part of it. I am totally respecting that. In fact, there was one video, I had no idea that weighed so heavily on her heart. One of the videos I pulled up and on my mobile phone, and it had delete from YouTube, and I allowed her to push that button and delete that video from YouTube because it bothered her. Because people were not very kind in the comments about some of the things that she had done. And this was when she was really young. She had made a video on her own, and I thought it was cute, and I left it on YouTube for the longest time. But there were some very negative comments, and that bothered her. So there is something about what can be said online that can really affect how our kids, I mean, this is an entire video subject. The whole idea of cyberbullying. Now, I know most of you never intended, and most of you watching this video probably never made those comments at all. But the people who did make those comments, maybe they didn't intend for it to be mean, but it wasn't very nice, and she took that to heart, and she held that to herself for all that time, and I didn't even know about it. So from now on, very likely you're going to see very little of my daughter in the videos until we can work through that, because now it's unfortunate that in this case she allowed herself to express that frustration in how she was handling the chickens, but you know what, it actually opened up a conversation in our house, and I'm very glad it happened because the chickens weren't hurt, and my daughter got to express her heart to me, and now I understand how she's feeling, and I'm going to be more sensitive to her in my videos. So Luke is really the only one that likes to be in the videos, so he might be the only one that you get to see for a very long time. Peter Swank, do you ever see a time where your farm will be profitable enough for you to retire from work and live off your farm? Probably not. Boy, I wish that were the case. I actually hope that at some point YouTube and other online content will become profitable so that income can help me leave the daytime work, and I can focus more on creating a farm, an educational farm for the local community, and also use that content and the story and the journey of my farm to provide for you guys here online. So outside of having the online content, I really doubt, as long as I have bills to pay, I need to go to work. And as long as I have to go to work, I don't have time to turn the farm into something that is profitable. I'm not a very good business person either, so if there is a way to do it, I haven't thought about it, and I certainly haven't managed to do anything like that. Silverado Can Man says, why don't you do more berry plants? Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. If you do have a lot, I'd love to see them. Well, I have a lot of blackberry plants that I want to plant, but it's one of those staging things, is that right now I have a horse that runs around the farm, pretty much free-range horse. And the goats occasionally, when they have got out of their pen, the first thing they like to go to is either the rose bushes or the blackberry bushes. So a lot of those plants are still in smaller containers in my garden. I've had visions of blackberries and raspberries and blueberries and all kinds of berries. I have the mulberry trees. I would really like to have food growing all over this farm, but I have to find that way to balance the animals with the plants, and so far it's been a little bit of a struggle, so we're still working on that. The sun is going down, and I think I made it through all of the questions, so I'm going to end this. Maybe it'll be one video, maybe it'll be two. Anyway, thank you so much for submitting all of these questions. It was so much fun reading. The ones that didn't have the double question mark, one before and one after, I ended up answering in text. Those that I read tonight were the ones that did have that format, because I just had so many, I had to narrow it down somehow. So thank you so much for your questions, for your time, and I am just thoroughly having a good time here on the farm, sharing this experience with you. I appreciate every minute, every comment, everything. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.